Welcome to Yacht Crew Vlogs, where we tell the stories of those in the yachting industry. A behind-the-scenes look that discovers the individuals in the industry, their history, their passions, and what inspires them to do what they do. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Yacht Crew Vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and I'm very pleased to welcome my next guest. She is Daphne Dauphet, and she is the Senior Charter Manager for Ocean Independence. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Now, you've got an interesting story. You were raised on board a houseboat.
Yes, on the Miami River. Very different from today, but, made me quite a water baby despite the cliche. And, I never really looked back. I've gravitated to that my whole life, whether it was sailing or, motor yachting or, I lived up in Georgia and Tennessee and experienced the lakes, and it wasn't quite the same for me. So I ended up back down here, and, the rest is history.
We all sort of wait for retirement, to think that that's when we're going to sail away into the sunset. But you started that way.
I did feel very fortunate. As a kid, when you live on a boat, it's at least back in, when I was a kid, I was the kind of oddball. She lives on a boat, and most kids couldn't come and have a sleepover at my house because it was dangerous. And so I often went to other people's, and I still felt very normal in the sense of, being able to go and do stuff and have birthday parties and all the rest. And then, I was a little different, and that was okay. Eventually I got used to that. And I used it to my advantage, I would say, once I knew how to, in the sense of knowledge and experience. And my mom, I was very fortunate to travel a lot, not just by boat, but, worldly exposure really helps in general to kind of get you into not only this industry, but if it's something similar like travel. So there's so many facets of what I had growing up that have eventually let me potentially be better at what I do now.
Well, what was it that your mom did? She was in yachting.
So my mom later on was in yachting. That's actually how I became a crew member first and got into the work side of yachting. She was a listing secretary at a couple of brokerages. I mean, she started with like Hatteras and then moved up with Allied, Richard Bertram. And, she had a long history in that side of things. And I had been in another career. I did try to be land-based for a while. And when I realized that just wasn't the thing for me, I came back down to Florida, and it was during a Fort Lauderdale boat show. And, the people that I knew already that were boaters and participating, they needed extra hands and just asked if I would come and help as sort of a natural. They didn't have to train me to really do anything other than show people around. And then I met a captain and was asked to work. And that's where it kind of went into a different direction as a job.
So you were a stewardess. How many years did you spend traveling around the world doing your job?
So I did that for about 6.5 years, not very long in the scheme of things. And I was able to travel to mostly Bahamas, Caribbean, and then I did some East Med cruising and travel. And then I really just wanted to come back and be a little bit more stable. I was doing a lot of freelance, to be honest with you. I was constantly asked to come over to this boat or come to that boat, and I got the phone calls for that. And I wasn't landing my feet in that perfect owner boat situation like some people get and stay in it for a long time. And that's what I think got me back home. And ultimately, I was looking to somehow stay connected to the industry, and got an opportunity with Kent Chamberlain in his firm. I was sort of given several hats to wear there. So it allowed me to learn a lot more about this kind of back end of the industry. And then charter. And he had, a few boats in charter, and his sort of his charter manager at the time had moved on, and it ended up in my lap. And I took it and ran with it. And I had to ask a lot of questions and hope that people would answer. And I had some friends in the industry that I could rely on with other companies. And that's where it started.
And so you joined Ocean Independence in 2009?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I had already been booking while I was with Chamberlain Yachts quite a bit with, European brokers. My fleet had, American brokers, European brokers, whoever had the clients, they were coming. And so I had developed the relationships and had gone to the boat shows, Antigua and elsewhere. And I had met a couple of the brokers with Ocean Independence, and they said, if you're ever looking to move, we really would like to grow our US presence. And we think you'd be a good fit. And it didn't happen really while I was at Chamberlain. It was just as I was thinking of transitioning. The only reason I ended up really wanting to move on was because I felt I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be challenged with the regulations of international chartering. And I had only really been doing that more localized New England, Florida, Bahamas, and Caribbean. And that's what was stimulating me to do more and to grow. And if I was going to really stick this job out, it meant that I needed to be able to service clients better too. And knowing that Ocean Independence was already very strong in so many other parts of the world, and I sort of already had this side of the world figured out to a degree. It always changes, so I'm still always on my toes. I knew I would have a support system, so I could ask questions over there of my team if I joined them. And that's exactly what happened. I joined, it was just me and one other person in the office, and within a less than 12-month period, the charter fleet really started to grow. Fortunately, I had a lot of good referrals, people who wanted to be represented by me, and then a good company, a large company, and it snowballed from there. And we've since, all these years grown with more sales brokers and, yacht management, and all of that presence over here has really developed over a slow period, but an important period. Each time that we've grown in a different way and with some stability, which was needed.
Well, and I guess that constant need to learn is what got you the 2018 Charter Professional of the Year award.
I guess so. If I could go back to school all the time, I probably would. I am one that strives to do that. I just don't have the time. Yes, I think we were also in a position then that a lot was happening, a lot still is happening. And when you participate and you're active, I've been active with EBA for a long time, you also get back what you put in. Right. And I think the support that I was getting from my peers, but also what I was able to kind of share if I was learning something, and it became sort of this non-competitive, let's all try to make this industry and what we do collectively better and maybe more standardized. And we all started to think the same way. So it wasn't really just me. We have a great charter professionals committee and now a charter retail committee. And I think that's what over time was really important and still is how do we actually make what we do better for clients, and when we're trying to problem solve, because there's no manual. There isn't let's refer back to page whatever. Contracts can change. We've obviously seen what happens in the industry. That surprises us. COVID was a huge eye-opener for everybody in every other industry too, not just us. But, that's what keeps us on our toes. Again, sorry for the cliche, but it's just so true. Sometimes it can be, I think, a little bit daunting, not only for new clients and owners, but that's part of the job. When you start to learn a little bit more and you have more things happen, positive and negative. When you learn from those and you can share that experience, people start to realize, okay, I might run into a problem and you've told me what to expect if I do run into that, but there seem to be solutions. rules and resolutions that we can come up with.
20 years ago, the regular person never would have considered charter. It was sort of an elitist thing. It's not necessarily that way anymore. But what are you seeing today as far as charter goes, especially in the US?
Sure. Well, you know probably better than me that so much of that is because of social media, right? It's exposed now. I mean, we have TV shows about it. We have all kinds of things. And that once things become a little bit more tangible in that sense, because people are now aware, then it's our job to make them aware on a realistic level. And so I think over the past couple of years versus even the past 10 years, let's say, we've seen a lot more new people that then say, okay, I can do this and I'm so comfortable with it at this price point. We can only educate if they're there to listen. And that engagement has just over time become easier and easier because of the internet and how we communicate, quickly by email and with digital presentations now. I mean, everything we did before was like, I feel we did so much by mail, believe it or not, I mean, we were still mailing contracts only a few years ago, it seems like. And when you can do things faster, quicker, easier, I think then it also seems like, okay, I can do this the first time. It's not a risk. It's not so unachievable and unattainable. And look, people still start sometimes with, like, for instance, the catamaran market. And the catamaran market also grew over the last 10 years or even 20 years, right? So when there's production of inventory and more inventory too to reach, then that starts to become also more attainable as a charter client, I think.
Do you notice that there is sort of a shift of what charter clients are looking for nowadays, as far as not only the experience, but the location, the time frame, et cetera?
To some degree, I would say that, I've seen a transition even in the boats that are inventory on the charter market just in the past 3 years. And a lot of that is, okay, we want the newest boat. And the new boats in manufacturing they've come up with, new designs where you're getting a lot more volume on a smaller boat and a lot more capacity for accommodation for guests and still not feeling like it's squeezed on. And that's what I think I've seen a trend towards that has affected charter because the builders were in tune to that. And so once we started seeing more of the, for example, 100-footers with 5 stateroom with an on-deck master and in a contemporary styling, that became the mainstream. Everybody wants it because there are more people that can afford the, let's just say, 80 to 100,000 a week type of boat. And then, from there, you still have people that are okay and love being on, the smaller version that is still a go fast, maybe a princess or an azimuth style. And that's okay for them. But I would say the traditional interiors that are, a lot of woodwork or heavier type of styling, that would be, for me, very classic and traditional. We've moved away from that in what charters desire.
And have you noticed that the age demographic has changed at all?
I'm not sure I would say it's drastically different. I mean, do I see more of the maybe mid-30s couples doing trips together? Yes, even 40s couples doing trips together, but we still see a lot of families, generational trips being done. So I'd say it's still a very good mix. But when you have more charter clients in general, the scope of their age range is still vast. I wouldn't say that all of a sudden we've seen a bunch of 20-something-year-olds chartering now. 10
years from now, 15 years from now, we have this Airbnb and Uber generation. Do you think that is going to impact the charter market and we're going to see many more people chartering as opposed to purchasing?
So we've already seen the increase, right? And I've already seen even up to, I feel like 3 to 4 years ago, a few boats that started to become listed on Airbnb and those types of platforms. But you don't really traditionally see volume coming out of it. So it's already been proven not to quite be a win-win. And one of the reasons I think, and this is just a guess, but we are in the service business. And as charter managers and brokers, part of the true luxury of being able to charter a yacht at any price point, because it's all relative, right? The charter that can afford $20,000 and the charter that can afford, $200,000, they all should receive that high level of service and feel that experience is top notch for them. And we can only do that with personal relationships still. Yeah. And I know that, there's been this diversity with travel agents and them trying to still stay in their businesses, but we're not really parallel to travel in that sense. And the chartering of a yacht is a very custom tailored experience from start to end.
We are seeing a lot of platforms being built that literally can take you through a yacht as if you were there. Mm-hmm. Do you imagine that is going to become more commonplace within the industry in the future?
For sure. I think we all have to realize that these are tools we've got to use because it gives that next closer step to a booking. For us, it's also a business and we want to get more business. So we've got to become in tune to the tools that may be easier and more inviting for clients. It doesn't eliminate that relationship or the brokerage status of how to book it, because the next layer of this when it comes to booking a yacht is, a contract and protectionary measures and the what ifs. You can ask a million questions via a platform or a messaging system and you still may not get all the answers. And then you get on the boat and something happens, and were you prepared? Someone tell you that this is what you should have done, or maybe this is what needs to now happen to protect you. It is yachting. I mean, these are boats that are run still by real engines, and it's not all just push button, and even technology fails. We know that. So we all have to realize Mother Nature's involved. There are all kinds of things, and to know ahead of time and be prepared. Not to say that there's always a worst case scenario, but that's I think the important part, and still being able to use the tools that you're talking about to get to at least a closer point of conversation.
I think there may be there is a perception out there that a broker, once they sign that deal, they walk away. But when the guest is on the boat, you're still their broker and you're still taking care of them, correct?
100%. I mean, if you're not doing a job, right? I mean, I think the most important thing, and I use this on both my charter management side as well as when I'm a retail broker representing a client, is I want to know either from the captain or the client. So when I'm representing a boat, I check in with the captain. Even when it's some other broker's client that's on board, has everything started? Is it okay? Keep me posted along the way. That's part of service. And then on the other side, same thing. You try to message the client, not in a pestering way, but you just want to know them to know that you're checking in and that you're there if there's something they should share. And they're not feeling bad for reaching out and possibly complaining about something. But you're hoping also for I'm having an amazing time. It's the most rewarding part, I think, of the job is hearing this was wow. You want to hear that every time.
So for you, what is the next steps?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm not really sure. I mean, charter is evolving all the time. And I do feel like I've had a lot of experience to be able to share. I mean, I've become probably more of a mentor to a lot of up and coming new charter brokers, managers, industry professionals, which I do love. it's comforting to know that if I feel I've been recognized for doing some good things in the industry and in a good way, that maybe I can pass that on to the newcomers because, at some point, who knows? I really haven't made a plan to move on to a next step of anything because charter management really keeps me growing. I've done that. I love, speaking to owners. I love keeping up with the market and being able to say, 5 years ago, I would have told you something different, but this year I'm going to tell you, this is what I believe. And that's truly why I think I haven't said, okay, I need to move on to something else. It's challenging at times. I think we all go through that in any job, but it's knowing you have a good support system. And I do here. So, that's the joy of staying with Ocean Independence.
All of Daphne's information will be below this interview when it airs. I encourage you, if you are looking at doing any sort of charter, do get in touch with her because do you know what? There isn't one size fits all. Whatever your needs are, she can take care of you. Thank you again to Daphne Daffé. She is the Senior Charter Manager out of Florida. My name is Ria. I have been your host. We'll see you again next time.